Some of the finest sailors in the world have gathered in Valencia for the start of one of the world's greatest sporting events, culminating in the 2007 32nd America's Cup. The Mayor of Valencia welcomes politicians and dignitaries from around the world as the boats are paraded in front of the crowd. At the halfway point of Act 2, let's look back at the story so far.
Italians Luna Rossa, who didn't take part in Act 1 in Marseille, have turned out to be the surprise package, beginning a roll of 4 wins and just 1 defeat. ALINGHI, the defending America's Cup team from Switzerland, the first time Europe have won the trophy, losing out to New Zealand for the very first time. And as for the New Zealanders, they've started well with their new campaign, and in the first 3 days here in Valencia, 4 wins and 1 defeat. A disappointing regatta so far for BMW Oracle Racing. They've lost twice in 5 starts, and this, remember, the team that won in Marseille just last month. The DEFI of France said to be short on funding, she's short on training time and short on victories. K-Challenge notched up 2 victories in the first 3 days. And from South Africa, SHOSHOLOZA, the first contender ever from the African continent, on a steep learning curve and seeking their first win. And finally, Vuitton, the Italian Challenge, the second Italian contender, a new player on the stage, an old boat on the water, and 1 win under their belt.
So to the leaderboard, and after 3 days of racing, Luna Rossa, Team New Zealand and Team ALINGHI all have 4 victories. BMW Oracle Racing still with a bit to do. Let's get out on the water then with BMW Oracle Racing up against ALINGHI, the big matchup of Act 2.
It's all about time and distance, trying to use up that time to get to the gun at full speed. Away we go then. On the committee side, Ernesto Bertarelli on the grinders, on the left-hand side there. And that split tack start might make them a little nervous. They're a long way away from each other. Strong breeze now, and it's getting up over 20 knots at the moment. Beautiful boat, BMW Oracle Racing. And there's the distance between them as they head towards that first mark. It's about 3 lengths, but that's nothing in this wind. Up at the first mark then, BMW ahead. Oh, and that's a problem, a big problem. And Oracle, having started so well, that spinnaker has just gone bang. And they are completely underpowered at the moment, and the grinders will have a lot to do to sort this one out. And at that top mark, BMW Oracle Racing 22 seconds ahead of Team ALINGHI. But obviously now ALINGHI have seen a chance to pounce. And they are working at it. It was close. Breeze really freshening now, picking up to 25 knots at the 3rd mark. But Oracle with the lead. Thrashing through the water. Meanwhile on board, Ernesto Bertarelli on the ALINGHI team, grinding and trying desperately to get back on level terms with the Americans. Oh no, and there goes the spinnaker, ripped on ALINGHI. And it's trailing in the water, and that's an awful mess for the foredeck to sort out. Real problems now, and they're really having to work it. Handbrake. You can see BMW looking back. The Swiss still haven't got it out of the water, and that's going to gift the Americans this victory. So the final winning margin of 1 minute, 15 seconds.
So that concludes round robin 1. But gusty winds have taken their toll. K-Challenge won this morning, but baton damage means they missed their next race. And Le Défi managed to make it to the first mark against Luna Rossa, but damage forced the French to retire. Meanwhile, Emirates Team New Zealand enjoyed another victory, plus 39, feeling the force of the New Zealanders, who looked very strong at the end of round 1.
Today's been interesting with a bit more breeze, a bit more like Marseille really, and we've gone well. We've had 2 wins so far today with 1 to go.
A quick look at the table at the end of round robin 1. A rude awakening for BMW Oracle Racing and ALINGHI, with Luna Rossa and Emirates Team New Zealand out in front. Match 4 at the pre-start, and BMW Oracle Racing are above the start line.
This is a very big one, match 4 at the pre-start. BMW Oracle up above the start line as the clock ticks down. And away they go then, opposite ends. By the look of things, BMW are turning back. Well, they've made the ultimate mistake, surely not. Well, Gavin Brady, helmsman, will be distraught. Chris Dixon, his team, with all that experience, can still get it wrong. They've got to go back now and restart. They jumped the start. Unbelievable. Such is the tension and pressure out there. Two big boats. But even with all of that experience, the 18th man having trouble there staying on. They turned quickly and they're back in pursuit, and they needed to. Home stretch then for BMW, Oracle and Luna Rossa. And look how fast they're going. Match 4 coming to its conclusion. Oh, and bang! That's it, Spinnaker rips into shreds. Oh, that is awful for Luna Rossa. And there's nothing they can do. That slowed them right down. Look how quickly they're getting on it. And they know they've got to be quick on this one. You can see what happens when the Spinnaker goes, bang, there it is, and look at the ground that BMW is starting to make up very quickly indeed. And you can see they're slightly out of control, they're trying to fix it as quickly as possible, and as soon as they get it back up, they're in pursuit again. Great finish here between these two boats, two of the best crews they have at the moment here in Valencia, and they're trying everything they can. Luna Rossa trying just to stay right with Oracle, take a little bit of wind from them, but as they head there towards the finish line, Oracle look as though they're just about to hold it. This is a great display of racing by the Americans. And they let the Spinnaker out, heading towards the mark. They let it right out. Oh, how far is that? They've just come across the line in the lead. And that's a great win for BMW. But wait a minute, it's the Italians celebrating. What's going on? Well, it appears that the umpires have penalised BMW. Their ropes touched the buoy. And Larry Ellison cannot believe it. Vitelli delighted, and the Italians cock a hoop.
Well, the umpire's role is really to make sure that the sailing is fair, and to be the people that are on the water that kind of resolve issues between the two boats. Well, we've got the basic one is the whistle that you sound when you give a penalty. We've got a bunch of flags here that we use to signal penalties. These are actually signal lights here that show the penalties. There's lights that are up on top of the umpire boat, and when we flick those on, the signal shows that they still have a penalty outstanding. It's a lot of just this concentration and knowing what the game is, and working well with the partner, and being able to make quick decisions.
The all-French duel now, K Challenge against Le DEFI.
At the third mark, there's a real battle going on here. Le DEFI leading, approaching that mark. Oh no, though. That's a big problem. That Spinnaker's just gone away on the foredeck crew. Strong breeze, and that's going to be a nightmare to get back. That really shouldn't happen at this level, and that's surely going to gift it to the DEFI. They head home. Oh no, and they've got problems too. Their Spinnaker's completely shredded as they head down. Well, who'd have thought it? But of course, a slightly underfunded team, and this is probably about the 9th Spinnaker they've gone through. The disappointment for them, but they've managed to repair it quickly and got underway, and by the end of it they managed to stay ahead by just over a minute at the finish line.
It was pretty rough, a lot of wind, and we managed to break a Spinnaker one more time, but at the end we won, so we are pretty happy altogether.
And with all those blown Spinnakers, it's going to be a busy night for the sailmakers in the lofts. A new day, on to Flight 2 here in Valencia, the beautiful city in Spain.
Good wins for today as Team ALINGHI take on Luna Rossa, one of the best matchups of the day. 17 men flat out on both boats before the start, a frantic pace. At the moment looking very good, Luna Rossa. ALINGHI though not far behind, look how close they are. And at the gun, it is Luna Rossa getting away well. but ALINGHI going alongside them. There's nothing really in it. You saw Luna Rossa bearing away there for a second, just frightened of crossing the line before the hoot-up. But ALINGHI, defenders of the America's Cup, desperately wanted to carry on that form the first few acts of the 32nd America's Cup. Up to the first mark they go then. ALINGHI with a slight lead. Peter Holmberg, Schumann and Butterworth have all done a great job as they head past that first mark. They could get the double here as they head towards another victory. Luna Rossa can do not a great deal about it at the moment. Away we go then. Still hard at work on both crews. They certainly haven't given up by any means. And they're attacking on this final leg. Excellent stuff. And in fact, they're overtaking. Well, Peter Holmberg won't believe his eyes. And sure enough, they have overtaken. The Italians have gone into the lead over the defenders. Fantastic. It was all under control, and suddenly from nowhere came the Italians, and they've stolen victory. Brilliant stuff. Excellent sailing. What a race.
And the other racers, SHOSHOLOZA, kept in touch for half of their race against Le DEFI before eventually falling back by 58 seconds. Emirates Team New Zealand take another comfortable victory. This time the K Challenge falls to the Kiwis' great form. And BMW Oracle Racing, the Marseille Act 1 winners, have a much-needed win over +39. So after the second flight of round 2, Emirates Team New Zealand just ahead of Luna Rossa Challenge by 1 point, and BMW Oracle Racing and Team ALINGHI fighting it out for third place. Now it's head-to-head in the battle of the big guns. ALINGHI's Peter Holmberg up against Dean Barker for Emirates Team New Zealand.
So then two top teams, Emirates Team New Zealand and Team ALINGHI. This is going to be a good start from both teams. New Zealand turn and head towards the line. ALINGHI right alongside. It's not a great deal as they come across the line to start this one. Well, this is what we wanted from the two top teams, effectively. Team New Zealand with the speed. Throwing dirty air back at ALINGHI. Sure enough, they're going to tack away. The wind started to die, and it's very light indeed at the moment. The wind spotters struggling. This is a tough time for everyone, but they're really working hard. It doesn't look like it perhaps, but this is probably the toughest time of all for all the crews. Emirates Team New Zealand have reached the bottom mark, but they're struggling in this light pressure to get round it. This really is unsaleable conditions, frustrating for everyone on board. And it looks as though ALINGHI have got a puff of wind and are now starting to bear down on Team New Zealand. Match 4 and Luna Rossa having almost overtaken match 3 with time ticking out towards the 40 minutes since the last mark. They can't quite get there, and this is absolutely painful. The umpires have their stopwatches out and have abandoned the race. BMW, Oracle and Le DEFI making it past the third mark, but they too are struggling and they take too long under the rules, so race abandoned. The Italians and South Africans have a real tactical tussle going on. They can't make it to the third mark within the time limit, and their race is also pulled. I'll say one thing, it's been a really tough day for the tacticians.
No time to complete the last 3 races, and they're worth half a point to everyone, and that means Emirates Team New Zealand win Act 2, just ahead of Luna Rossa. BMW Oracle Racing 3rd, ALINGHI 4th. The photographers wait for the photograph. Dean Barker raising the trophy. Emirates Team New Zealand, worthy winners of Act 2. The champagne starts to flow. All a bit of a relief for Grant Dalton and his team.
We're really pleased, you know, it's the first trophy that Team New Zealand's won for a fair while, fair to say. So, I mean, it's not the shape of the one we're going for eventually, but we'll take them all along everywhere we can get them.
Let's have a quick look back now at the best moments of the first 4 races of fleet racing. The lead that ALINGHI had built up was slowly whittled away by the K Challenge and a drifting Emirates Team New Zealand, but it was just enough to let the Swiss in by 2 seconds. third race, not just one but 4 boats messed up at the start. All the boats were onto the left-hand side of the line and a whole bunch crossed the line early. ALINGHI were first to turn, BMW Oracle, Luna Rossa and K Challenge all following suit. Emirates Team New Zealand had plain sailing all the way round. The biggest disappointment came from the skies. Third day of the regatta with points close and the countdown to the race only moments away. The wind increased beyond safe sailing limits. Relief for some, disappointment for others. After the devastating demolition of their boat by a storm at the end of Act 1, the Kiwis had scrambled to fly in their replacement boat halfway round the world from New Zealand. Yet they still found form, winning the first race and coming in second behind ALINGHI in race 2. Race 3, and they were up again, crossing the line a full 3 minutes ahead of the nearest boat. With 2 firsts and a second, Emirates Team New Zealand was in a commanding position. The hard lessons would be learned in race 4. The boats lined up in what looked like the perfect start, but the judges said the Kiwis were over the line. Only a fraction of a misjudgment. The race blown. The New Zealanders turned back for the line and the restart. An end to their good run, relinquishing the top of the leaderboard to ALINGHI. So for the final few fleet races, it's perfectly poised, with Team ALINGHI just 1 point ahead. The boats prepare for an early start, and there's a change to the original programme. The last day will feature 2 races, not just 1. The big protagonists of race 5, defending America's Cup champions Team ALINGHI and their great rivals Emirates Team New Zealand.
New Zealand definitely taking the pin end here. So important to get it just right, just as the gun goes. And across they come, and it is Emirates Team New Zealand who leads them away. That was brilliant from the pin end. And at the third mark, BMW Oracle Racing with a huge lead now. You can hear the hooters, change of course, and a dramatic change in the wind as well, which you can see. The spotters are up the mast looking for everything they can get. Around the third mark go K Challenge, and this is a great race for them so far. They're currently in second place now, chasing BMW Oracle. And as the Americans head towards the finish line, back at the third mark, ALINGHI are just rounding it, and there's some 5.5 minutes off the leaders. Look at this, the wind has changed again and swung so much that they're taking the spinnakers down. Powering now towards the finish line with full sails. How different could it be for BMW Oracle Racing, winners of Act 1 in Marseille, and finally back to winning ways again here in Act 3.
So after race 5, Team ALINGHI on 33 points, 3 ahead of Emirates Team New Zealand and BMW Oracle with 28 and Luna Rossa on 25.
And as they head towards the line, Emirates getting away well, but it looks as though the South Africans, BMW Oracle, also stuck behind K Challenge as well, as they all try to go for the committee end. And the Kiwis are really sailing a great race. They ran the mark and they've used the conditions well, but look who's right behind them. It's the Swiss Team ALINGHI, exactly where they need to be, keeping a watchful eye on Emirates. But out front, Emirates with the rest of the fleet, a beautiful sight as the fleet racing for 2004 comes to an end. But it's been a great experience, a great learning experience for all the teams.
K Challenge in 5th place, then a couple of points behind Luna Rossa, BMW Oracle Racing 3rd, Emirates Team New Zealand 2nd, 1st place to ALINGHI.
Final regatta, it's obviously the nice one to walk away with. It's the one we'll think about as we go away for a few months.
Time for celebrations at the end of Act 3. The final regatta goes to ALINGHI, and the class championship for 2004 to Emirates Team New Zealand.